Hello everyone, and welcome to our event. I'm Cullen Childress, Head of Product for SolarWinds, and today I'm excited to share with you the details of this week's announcement. This launch is another step forward, strengthening our AOPS-powered, secure, and integrated software suite, underpinned by our modern cloud-native platform designed to help you achieve operational resilience and fuel your business growth. Over the next hour, we will dive deep into the new Enterprise Service Management, or ESM, and upgraded SQL Sentry database performance management offerings. You will see the new solutions in action and hear about the new capabilities from our solution experts. We have long recognized the significance of service management and database performance management as foundational components of our mission in helping your transformation initiatives. Moreover, our technology in these areas is an essential building block of our strategy to deliver a solution that rapidly accelerates problem detection and accelerated remediation, and ultimately fully automates the management of your digital services and your applications. In the past 18 months, we've invested significant resources into enhancing our already strong SQL Sentry and service management capabilities, and we will continue to do so into the future. First, you'll hear about the new SolarWinds Enterprise Service Management solution that extends value of service management beyond IT teams to improve the management, efficiency, and interactions and the user experience of every department across the enterprise. You'll then hear about the upgraded version of our comprehensive database performance monitoring and data ops solution, SQL Sentry. Before we move on, one housekeeping item. We have a great set of subject matter experts ready to answer your questions. You can ask your questions in the Q&A panel on your screen. And with that, I'm delighted to hand things off to our ESM solution expert, Sean Sebring. Enjoy the rest of the event.
Hello everyone, my name is Sean Sebring and I am a solution architect at SolarWinds. I am excited to join you today to talk about a special announcement specifically for SolarWinds Service Desk. So some of the history behind the SolarWinds Service Desk, or even SolarWinds in general, is pretty focused on IT and IT teams. When we think about the Service Desk, we're thinking about ITIL and ITSM processes and practices. So first and foremost, I want to thank you for allowing us to be part of your journey and for trusting us with your critical processes and practices. So as we've gone through this journey with our IT customer base, one of the things we've done is collect a lot of feedback. And specifically from these IT teams, a lot of the feedback's been about extending beyond IT. So when we think about beyond IT, of course, we're thinking about other departments such as legal, finance, and one of the most common ones, human resources. So what are we talking about when we're talking about extending processes beyond IT? To give you a good example, human resources with an onboarding experience, this is something that we face challenges with a lot, or rather other parts of the organization might. So when we're talking about extending these processes beyond IT, we're really talking about ways to help limit or erase or eliminate some of the challenges that they're currently facing without these best practices in place. So what are some of those common challenges? When I think uniquely about that pretty broad onboarding experience through human resources, some of the things that I think about are, well, first of all, how many departments are involved with a new hire? You might think initially just human resources, but to onboard a new person, we're talking about their desk setup, that could be facilities, their access to the building, that's with security, and then of course their hardware, that's with IT. Legal, finance, right, we've got to pay our people. So with all of these different departments with different pieces to this single process, is this just IT service management or is this something beyond? What other common challenges do we face? There could be lost requests. Think about the end user's experience in having to go to multiple portals, one for IT, a different system for human resources, just an email for facilities assistance. unifying that experience and creating a single place for all consumers, whether it's IT as a consumer of human resource services, or if it's facilities consuming an IT service. We're all both providers of services and consumers of services. So what we're going to be focusing on today is where we're going to get to with this announcement. So I've thrown ITSM around a couple times now, and then beyond IT, which is the crux of this announcement. What we're offering now is Enterprise Service Management, ESM. So another acronym to throw in the arsenal, but again, the most important part is service management. And with it being enterprise service management, we're focusing on the entire organization, not just IT. With us being in IT, the service management pros with tools that we've been developing and building, processes and practices that we've developed over years and years, let's bring these service management best practices to all of the service providers in the organization. Let's make this enterprise service management adopted throughout the entire organization. What this presents is an opportunity to improve ways of working. Again, as IT teams have adopted tools for ITSM, we understand the value of the practices and the capabilities that platforms can provide. So offering this to other parts of the organization to tailor their specific way of providing their service in a tool designed for service management, and combining that with a centralized place for end users to engage with all of their service providers is really going to bring the organization into a way better user experience. One of the other parts that I want to emphasize here is we're not talking about adding a piece of complexity for these other parts of the organization, these other service providers. With SolarWinds Service Desk, what we're offering is a simple solution that offers the powerful results of service management. And what I mean by simple solution is we're talking low code to no code, click, drag and drop, a very easy lift for configuration, and also something that can be managed still at the organizational level while still allowing all of the service providers to manage and tailor their individual service management experience. So what does this actually look like? How about a demonstration? Let's take a look at what it means to organize your service management, both for the entire company as well as individual service providers. So a great starting place is going to be looking at the corporate overview portal. So what is this portal? If we're talking about introducing different service providers, we still need a main landing page for the entire organization to know which service provider they're looking to engage with. So as we start here, we can see things like legal, finance, human resources, and these are basically jumps to go to your individual service providers. You still have all the same capabilities of branding, announcements, and other quick links that you would want to provide here. But again, this is your corporate organizational portal. So let's start by drilling into an individual service provider. Let's start with human resources. So what we're looking at now is the human resource specific portal. And it looks from a design standpoint pretty similar to the organizations, but what it's offering, the buttons, and the different services that you're able to engage with are unique to human resources. And this portal was designed by HR. So again, this is the concept of allowing a different service provider to curate their own experience tailored around the services and knowledge that they're offering. As an administrator of the organization, we can also note that I may not be able to access the administrative side of human resources. So if we want to talk about the ease of customization, which we can see that the design on both of them is fairly similar, let's just look at that click, drag, and drop that we were talking about previously. So we're going to jump into the administrative side from the organization level and just show you a little bit about how you can, again, curate that service portal. So this is your portal designer. Notice how I can just click, drag, and drop, as we'd said. We can resize, reshape, rearrange, and adding the new tiles in is as easy as selecting which tile you want. And then once it's in there, adding a label, changing the colors, and putting a URL for where you want that button to take somebody. Things like announcement messages and widgets specific to the different services or knowledge that you can offer. With it being click, drag, and drop and no code, this means that we're not adding complexity for HR to design their portal. We're adding an opportunity for HR to create their own experience and their own service portal for their service consumers. Let's jump back to the organization side of things. And what we're going to do here is actually operate off the organization level, not looking at any unique service provider, but our organization as a whole. So we can see here at the organization level, there's a list of departments. And these departments will carry through to all of the service providers. So let's take a look at what does it mean to add another service provider to our organization. And I don't mean to be dramatic, but prepare to have your minds blown. We're going to start by just clicking this plus, and it is as simple as labeling who is the service provider. Give it a quick description if you want. Name the extension of what you want their service provider URL to be. We even give you the option to change what is their main record type going to be. Is it a ticket, an incident, a work request, case? And that's it. Press create and you've added another service provider to your organization. Again, at the organization level, let's talk about managing different things like users and the ingestion of users, as well as single sign-on. Something to note about this is at the org level, there's really only need for two roles. You're either an admin administering who's in and out of the entire organization, or you're a requester intending to navigate to one of the other service provider portals. Now let's break that down a little bit further, and let's go into the setup side of, again, let's say the human resource portal. So here at this level, where someone may have been a requester for the organization, they can be an administrator for human resources. And the same thing can be true in the reverse. An administrator of the organization can be listed as only a requester in the human resource instance. So what this provides is a layer of security, so that human resources not only has the opportunity to provide a unique service provider experience, but they can also do it trusting and knowing that the data is secure and only accessible to human resources. The same is true for other departments. We've mostly been talking about human resources, but this carries over to departments like marketing and facilities. And each of these different places has their own opportunity to manage things such as a service catalog with different workflows and processes, different requests and knowledge, and different SLAs for their different services that they provide. Let's take a look at some unique examples. Starting on the People portal, or the Human Resources portal, let's use the search. And we'll notice here that this is, again, going to be a unique search to the services and knowledge that are being offered by the human resource team. So as we look for, let's just say, employee onboarding, we'll see a list of articles being offered, as well as some services. This is going to be a unique set that is different than what's offered on the IT portal or even the marketing portal. Speaking of marketing, let's take a look at their portal. Doing the same type of activity, leveraging our suggestions, which again are unique to each individual service provider, let's try looking for something in the marketing services. Content review. Looking in a content review, we actually have a specific service called Content Review Request. So this was a request and form, along with a workflow that was designed by the marketing team to ask the questions they need to ask in order to fulfill and deliver the service to their requester. Just like we'd said before, the design of both the form and the workflow is click, drag, and drop. So here's a quick look at that. It's really just that simple. Click, drag, and drop. Copy, paste, and rearrange to your heart's desire. So I hope you enjoyed that quick demonstration of enterprise service management, and I hope you can see immediately some of the value of moving beyond just IT to the other departments, the other service providers in your organization. If you liked what you saw and you're interested to see more, or if you're already a customer and want to see how you can get your hands on these features, either start a trial or reach out to your account manager. Thank you so much for being with me today, and I hope you enjoyed this exciting announcement from SolarWinds for the SolarWinds Service Desk and Enterprise Service Management. Thanks.
Thanks for joining us. We at SolarWinds want to make software that everyone in your teams can use. Kevin and I, we work in database technology, which is traditionally very difficult to do. But the database is more important than ever because every application is a database, no matter what kind it is or where it's hosted.
That's right. More people in your teams need to understand and access their databases. It's a growing trend that we see in the news every day. And you need to understand what's happening within that platform. Traditionally, we think of the database as a black box. We send it a query, something magical happens, and it sends us back a result set. But we need to know more than that. And so what the SolarWinds solutions do is they accelerate your ability to see inside the database, proactively monitor and respond, perhaps before your customers, your end users even notice an issue. This provides you great understanding and insight into your database performance.
And that brings us to SQL Sentry, our product designed to monitor Microsoft SQL Server. SolarWinds acquired SQL Sentry in early 2020, and that's where both Kevin and I actually joined as a result of that acquisition. We really believe that SQL Sentry is the best tool to monitor SQL Server on the market. It was then, and it is now, 3 years after that acquisition. But Kevin, you've got to admit that SQL Sentry had a pretty big challenge, especially with that desktop client.
That's true. It's the most comprehensive tool. It has the deepest observability. It's incredibly powerful. But the problem is it's tough for new database people if they don't know a lot about databases.
And so today we're here to tell you that with the newest release of SQL Sentry, we've committed to making it even easier to understand, more intuitive to use, and better for every single person on the IT team to take advantage of.
That's right. Now we enter the phase where our portal was initially created to facilitate using a thin client. You're not licensed by clients. You can give this to as many people as you like, developers, DBAs, data analysts, and whatnot. And so with that browser-based client, customers wanted to be able to use it initially in our first release on their tablets and their phones. So if they got an alert and they're at their child's soccer game, they could look and see what the performance metrics were without having to actually go get their laptop out. But since then, with each new release, we've gotten closer and closer to full feature parity with the thick client. And in some cases, we've introduced some features that are distinct and unique to the portal. For example, there's already a feature set in there that enables you to create your own custom charts, pick and choose your different metrics that you want to appear on the chart.
And that takes us to today. So with the release of 2023.3, in addition to query level weight statistics, additions to the environmental health score, we've made it possible for DBAs to look at all of the monitoring in their SQL servers directly inside of the SQL Sentry portal.
So, Blythe, there's 4 things I'm going to show you today. The first is our environmental health overview. It's enhanced and changed. If you've used earlier versions of the portal, you'll notice that it's quite a bit different from earlier versions. After that, I'll take a moment and show you the Azure SQL pools monitoring that we have. And then I'll also show you query level weight statistics. And then finally, we have a few little bits and bobs that I want to show you at the end, such as our improvements for our customers who are using Amazon AWS RDS for SQL Server, and some new goodies that we have in Plan Explorer. So what we have here is the overall environment, all of the SQL servers that you have, and it has a score 1 to 100, the lower being worst. And so it gives you a health score history, and down below here in the alerts log, you will actually be able to see the history of everything that happens in your environment. And on top of that, with each of these different alerts, you can do things like assign those alerts to specific users to resolve. You can leave notes, like I tried this KB article and it didn't work. Now I'm assigning it to another person who's more experienced than I am. And you can, of course, close these different alarms and turn them off. Additionally, you can create all kinds of groups if you want. So you could have a West Coast set of servers that have their own score and an East Coast set of servers. Or you might have the dev, QA, and production servers, or maybe group it by applications, however you like to do that. And so the environmental health overview, if you've ever used what's called a NOC, National Operations Center, it gives you that ability to just look at the screen and get a quick feel for how things are in your enterprise and how healthy they are. You can also drill down and you can take a look at perhaps just those servers that are unhealthy, critical, some that are at risk. If you switch over to the healthy view, you can see which of your servers are doing well. And one feature that I really, really love is this delta. One of the things that I would experience a lot as an enterprise DBA at a global 500 company was my end users would come to me and say, "We're doing the same thing we always do, nothing out of the ordinary, but the server's performing a lot worse than normal. Our user experience isn't as good as normal." And so I could take a look at the delta and see what has changed over the last period of time that I'm currently monitoring. And so we can see one particular server here has dropped 26 points recently. And so that's a really good indication that we should drill down on this server and go into troubleshooting mode. And so we can see when we are having periods of poor performance and good performance as we go along. And we can also drill down and take a look at what the severity of the alarms are, when they happened, and in some cases, the different kinds of advisory condition alerts that we have will give you further details about how to troubleshoot or research the particular problem that you're experiencing. So last full backup didn't complete. Well, that's a pretty well-known way to resolve that. However, some of these can be very obscure. And so we have incorporated the knowledge of hundreds of the top blogger knowledge, top Microsoft MVP knowledge into these. In fact, at one time we had 7 Microsoft MVPs on staff. And so this contains a lot of very powerful information that you can act upon. And notice across the top, it's generally used for health, but we could look at it by performance. We could look at it by what's happening in storage and IOPS. What are the top SQL statements happening at any given time? So we can see what is causing issues in our environment, and even could be saturation in TempDB. So we've got something definitely happening here where we had an outage. We could look at it by object. So it contains information that you won't find in any other tool on the market.
Kevin, I love the improvements we're making to EHO. But what I really want to hear about is the query level weight statistics. This is something that is so exciting. It really brings SQL Sentry and DPA together, and it shows the power of our engineering teams and innovation at SolarWinds.
That's right. And so with query level weight statistics, we normally have a situation where we, at the top, we start with the entire instance of SQL Server. That's how the dynamic management views, the system tables, if you will, in SQL Server reveals that weight information for us, all aggregated up to the current point in time for the entire instance since the last restart. In this case, you can take it much deeper than that. So notice we have our list of top SQL statements here that have occurred in the time frame. It looks like it's about the last hour or so. And so if we drill down on any of these, you can see these are hyperlinks. So when we look at an individual server, now we see all of the top SQL statements that are running on that server, and we can then drill down on any of these particular SQL statements. And you notice here on the dashboard, we see a lot of useful information, memory grants, and that sort of thing. But these in blue, these values in blue are hyperlinks. And so we can drill down on that and see what the various weight statistics are as they accumulate on that query. And so it gives us a very good idea of what, if any, bottlenecks we're experiencing for this given query. And that enables us to do much faster and more detailed, more effective root cause analysis. Now, one thing that is also nice about this is if you're used to another product in our database portfolio, DPA, Database Performance Analyzer, it uses weight stats as its full focus on database tuning and root cause analysis. And so we have much closer parity between these two products. So if you're used to using DPA and you want to get the same kind of information out of SQL Sentry, it's much easier to do that now with these new features in the portal. So let me take a moment and tell you about our new enhancements for the Azure Synapse SQL pools. If you're used to the other SQL Sentry monitoring interfaces, this might be a little bit unfamiliar to you. With Azure SQL Synapse pools, we have a very different situation than what we have with a regular relational database or even a multidimensional database like SSAS offers you. Instead, what we have is a massively parallel processing architecture, an MPP architecture. And what that means is at the top level, what we see here is the distribution of data, typically across 60 different shards, I guess is a way you could describe it. And this large high graph is the control node. And then you can license from Azure different tiers that have different numbers of compute nodes. And that's what we see in the middle channel here, or the middle pane. And then finally, at the bottom, we see the actual work happening over time. And so what we see here is data movement, elapsed time, rows processed, megabytes processed, and megabytes per second. The two I really keep an eye on are the rows processed and the megabytes per second processed. The other thing I look at is what is happening with these compute nodes, and if they are very, very distinctly different in height. As long as they're fairly close in height, that means the load is balanced well, but they can skew according to the way that the data has been partitioned. And so those are typical bottlenecks. Also, another aspect of massively parallel processing is that data has to move around across the nodes because not every node has all the data. So it has to be moved in order for the node to process certain kinds of data requests at different times. So this is very hard to visualize under normal circumstances. So we show this all to you through the graphs that we have here. And then also notice we have a couple more tabs. We have the Distributed Queries tab, which is very much like Top SQL in the regular SQL Sentry product. And we don't have any active requests at the moment, but we have completed several requests lately. And so we see the different statements that are being executed against Azure Synapse. We see the steps here below, and this is kind of like an execution plan, except textually, each step that happens one after the other. And then when you click on one of these steps here, for example, step 5, we don't have any SQL requests, but step 6 has quite a few. And so you can drill down on those, take a look at their behavior individually with each of those queries. We also have a tab for loads, backups, and restores. However, I don't have too much to show you here, although we do have some loads that have happened recently, not a whole lot above and beyond what you see right there. And then finally, we also have a lot of information that you can use in the event calendar. So you can see all the different activities that are happening over time. If there's a top SQL statement, if there's a multi-step loading process, or perhaps some multi-step calculations happening. So you get a really good view of Azure Synapse in a way that's easy to understand. And yet, without these kinds of tools, it's very, very hard to see this information.
It's great to see the developments that are in addition to this event calendar. It was one of the first things that we brought out. It's had a huge level of adoption and success with our database professionals. And so adding Azure Synapse or Azure SQL tools to that just increases the value that we can bring as our customers migrate to the cloud and as cloud adoption becomes more ubiquitous throughout all industries across the globe.
One last thing to point out about Azure Synapse is that we also ship the product with a number of advisory conditions. And these are powerful, custom-written search criteria, I guess you could say, in which you want to know anytime something particularly unusual happens. We currently have 3 showing here, but we have several more that will be shipped soon. And you can see that they include things like Azure Synapse SQL Pool distribution skewing, which I mentioned earlier, high memory utilization, or inaccurate statistics.
I love that. It's just an incredible piece of technology that the engineering teams have created. And again, to help our clients move to the cloud, track their performance beforehand, baseline it, move to the cloud, and then be able to monitor SQL Server wherever their data lives, including, including in Amazon AWS, RDS, and in the Microsoft cloud as well. So just amazing.
Or all 3, on-premises, in the Azure cloud, in the AWS cloud. We support all of that.
Great.
Now let's talk about a product that I think is probably one that maybe even folks who are not DBAs know about. And that's our free popular product, Plan Explorer.
Plan Explorer. I am just so thrilled. This is my favorite part, Kevin. When we acquired SentryOne in 2020, we brought over a number of great tools, and Plan Explorer is my absolute favorite. This is a free tool that we offer. With hundreds of thousands of users, Plan Explorer really does have its own community. And DBAs all over the world use this tool to get insight into their query execution plans.
That's right. In fact, we see not just DBAs, but we see business analysts, data scientists, developers as a core component, constituency, if you will, of our user base. It simply makes query tuning or finding a problem in a query that is causing it to perform poorly, makes it super simple. It's got very beautiful visualizations, nice bright colors. It'll show you a bright red when there's some kind of anti-pattern in your SQL statement. For example, something like large spools and spills to tempDB that take a lot of time, or sorts or implicit conversion. So it shows you where in your SQL statements that's happening. And normally that is truly a black box for most people who don't know how to read the XML of the execution plan or don't know how to use the query plan analysis features that come in Management Studio. So one of the things that a lot of people love who do use SQL Server Management Studio is that Plan Explorer is a plugin. And so we've just certified it and made sure that it is available now and working in SQL Server Management Studio version 19, which is the most recent release of Management Studio. So this is great news for anyone who does query tuning, which is much broader than just DBAs. So again, this is a march forward. You're going to see steady progress and a lot of new features in the quarters to come. So we have big plans, not just for Plan Explorer, but our entire line of database products. The whole portfolio is experiencing a renaissance. And to those of you who are currently our customers, I want to thank you personally for being users. I want to thank you for your feedback. One thing I love about our users is that they're impassioned, they care, and you give us constructive feedback so that we can make the product better for you and add new features that are going to make your life better. That's very important. And we want to thank you for coming along this journey with us. It's community focused. We love to interact with you, and I want to hear more from you directly if you would like to reach out via email or social media. And finally, I'd just like to express gratitude. Thank you for spending time with us. You've got a busy day. We know that. And we appreciate that you've carved some time out to spend it with us.
That's right. And I know a lot of folks listening to this are even just starting to learn about databases and how their database technology and platform affects their infrastructure, network, and applications. We want you to know that we're here on this journey with you. And wherever you are in learning about SQL Server or Oracle SQL or any of the NoSQL or open source databases, we're constantly making software and monitoring solutions that help you with wherever you are. So again, like Kevin said, thank you so much, and we'll see you on the other side.
Thank you, Blythe and Kevin. As Blythe mentioned, we added SQL Sentry to our portfolio in 2020. And with these new capabilities, it continues to be the best and easiest to use SQL Server monitoring solution on the market. We are committed to SQL Sentry and will continue making this product better over time. Many of you have leveraged our ITSM solution, and you're telling us that it continues to be one of the fastest time to value, easiest to use, and lowest cost of ownership products in the market. With the release of ESM, the same user-friendliness can be leveraged by all departments in the company to begin adopting service management best practices quickly and cost-effectively. We have been a leader in enterprise software for more than 25 years, and I would be remiss if I forgot to mention the huge role you, our amazing community of customers, and partners have played in this success. Yesterday, on September 19th, we celebrated the annual IT Pro Day, a day to honor and recognize all IT professionals as the true unsung heroes of modern business. Thank you for making us better, for the truly incredible support you have given us over the years. And thank all of you for spending the past hour with us. I encourage you to give these new solutions a test drive, watch an online demo, or even better, start a free trial. And if you're not part of the member community, join THWAC for free and interact with the many database and service management users and practitioners on THWAC. On behalf of all of us at SolarWinds, thank you.